The story begins with a question that forces us to look closer at the painful reality behind many collapsing homes. What actually keeps a marriage together when the love is gone, when trust has eroded, and even the most basic respect has disappeared? For some couples, it's the children. For others, it's fear of judgment from their community or the heavy weight of religious expectations. Sometimes, it's a desperate attempt to keep something from falling apart, even when the foundation has already turned to dust. And as we've seen across countless tragedies, holding on at any cost can be far more dangerous than letting go. The case of Jacqueline and Paul Krimble did not stand out because it was rare, but because it was a chilling reminder of how manipulation, greed, and emotional control can lead to a level of brutality that still shocks people today. The media would eventually label Jacqueline the Black Widow, and even after her conviction, even after losing everything, the people who knew her say she continued to poison lives from behind a prison wall. Jacqueline, or Jackie Mary Bennett, entered the world on December 18, 1974, in County Armagh, Northern Ireland. She was the younger of two children in what seemed like a stable, middle-class household. But from an early age, Jackie stood out, and not in a good way. She was unpredictable, spoiled, defiant, and often outright aggressive. Where other children's behavioral issues softened with time, hers ardenned. By her teenage years, she had developed a reputation for starting fights, causing drama, and pushing boundaries to their limits. Her parents dismissed it as a phase, convinced maturity would eventually catch up to her. But the years passed and nothing changed. In high school, she met someone who was nothing like her. 3 years older, quiet, introverted, and deeply religious. Paul Krimble was the type of young man people immediately trusted. He was shy yet intelligent, responsible, and known for helping anyone who needed it. Their classmates could never understand the pairing. Jackie was fire, and Paul was water. But opposites attract. And in their case, the early pull between them was intense. To Paul, Jackie embodied everything he wasn't. Bold, outspoken, fearless. She was the first girl he truly fell for, and perhaps the only one he ever would. Jackie's parents welcomed Paul like a gift. They believed his calmness would balance out their daughter's storm. They warmed to him so much that, over time, it seemed they preferred Paul to Jackie herself. Meanwhile, Paul's own parents sensed something was off. They were polite, but cautious. They didn't trust Jackie's attitude or the way she treated their son, but instead of interfering, they remained silent. When Jackie became pregnant at 17, the situation changed dramatically. Paul, already in college, didn't hesitate. He insisted he would marry her, take responsibility, and raise their child with stability and dignity. Ending the pregnancy was never an option. Not for him, and not for his religious family. Jackie wasn't ready for marriage or motherhood, but a wedding was arranged. Still, days before the ceremony, Paul confessed to a close friend that something didn't feel right. He admitted he wasn't sure Jackie loved him. He wasn't sure he loved her. He was even frightened of her temper. But he felt trapped by duty, convinced that walking away would make him a failure in God's eyes. His friend begged him to reconsider, warning that this decision could define the rest of his life in ways he couldn't imagine. But Paul wouldn't back out. He believed things would settle. He believed that once Jackie became a mother, everything would change. He had no idea how wrong he was. Their first child, a daughter named Danielle, was born in early 1993. 6 years later, they welcomed a son, Adam. Paul climbed the ranks in his career, eventually securing a well-paying position as a senior mechanical engineer. He provided everything the family needed. Meanwhile, Jackie stayed home, claiming to focus on the house and kids, though she contributed little to either. Her temper worsened. She drank heavily. She slipped into the local bar scene, flirting with anyone who paid her attention, starting arguments, creating chaos wherever she went. While Paul stayed home with the children, she stayed out late, intoxicated, unpredictable. Her behavior embarrassed Paul, humiliated her children, and strained the entire family's reputation in their small community. Inside the home, things were worse. Jackie ruled through intimidation. The family walked on eggshells around her. Any disagreement could turn into screaming, threats, or worse. Paul confided in only a few trusted people. They urged him to leave her, but he was terrified. Jackie knew exactly how to keep him trapped. Every time he considered separation, she threatened to take the kids, to cut him out of their lives, or to make sure he suffered socially and financially. She claimed she had connections men who would do anything for her, and Paul, afraid for himself and his children, stayed quiet. Everything changed on the morning of June 20th, 2004, when emergency services received a frantic call from Jacqueline. She claimed she and Paul had been attacked in their home by 3 masked men who beat them, tied them up, and abducted Paul during a failed robbery. When responders arrived, Jackie was found with her hands zip-tied behind her back, but no injuries, no bruises, nothing to match the violent story she told. The kids were luckily away at their grandparents' house. Jacqueline described masked intruders, violence, demands for money, and a struggle that ended with Paul being dragged out of the house. She insisted she managed to call for help using her tongue. But something felt wrong. She was too calm, too calculated, and within hours, the couple's car was found abandoned. Inside the trunk was Paul's lifeless body. His wrists and ankles were zip-tied. His face and torso were badly bruised, suggesting a prolonged attack. What puzzled investigators even more was Jacqueline's reaction. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse in grief. She pretended to be shocked, but her performance was thin, and within minutes, she was asking the officers when she could get her car back. As investigators looked deeper into her life, a darker truth unfolded. Her marriage had been deteriorating. Her behavior had grown increasingly volatile, and she had been having an affair with a man named Roger Ferguson, a local farmer known for drinking, bar fights, and doing whatever Jackie told him to do. They had been seen together constantly. He had even visited her home while Paul was at work, and the timing of their relationship aligned too closely with Paul's death to be ignored. Soon, both Jacqueline and Roger became the primary suspects. More troubling details emerged. Days before Paul's murder, Jack Owain had inquired about life insurance policies. Soon after, the plan to remove him permanently took shape. Jacqueline got Paul excessively drunk the night of his death, giving him shot after shot until he could barely walk. They left the bar around midnight, but the emergency call wasn't placed until nearly 90 minutes later, leaving a suspicious gap in the timeline. That missing hour became critical. It allowed time for staging, cleaning, tying restraints, and potentially rehearsing the false narrative. Physical evidence inside the home shattered Jackie's story. A boot print matching Roger's shoes was found. A cigarette but carrying his saliva was recovered from the trash. Fingerprints belonging to him appeared on the zip ties used on both Paul and Jacqueline. Residue from both of them appeared on the plastic bag used in the suffocation. Location data revealed Roger had not been home at the time but had spent hours at the Crimble residence. And most damning, a teenager named Colin Robinson confessed that he had been forced to help move Paul's body to the car after witnessing Roger assault him. The case eventually led to convictions for all involved. Jacqueline received 20 years. Roger received 18. Colin, coerced and still a minor, received 3. Roger's elderly mother received a suspended sentence for lying about his alibi. But what happened after the trial was perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the story. Danielle and Adam, already traumatized, lost both parents in a single stroke. Instead of allowing the grandparents to raise them, Jacqueline used her remaining parental rights to block that option out of spite. The children were placed into foster care. From prison, she manipulated them emotionally, withholding permission for school field trips unless they supported her claims of innocence. When they refused, she punished them by refusing to sign forms. Danielle managed to save a few photographs of her father after Jacqueline burned all of Paul's belongings. She hid them in her nightstand. They remained her only keepsake. Both children eventually rebuilt their lives. Danielle grew up to work in childcare, forming her own quiet and stable world far from her past. Adam completed his education and moved to London, but with Jacqueline scheduled for release next year, both fear the cycle she created may begin again, this time targeting them as adults.